believe it would have happened a lot smoother with a person that can make a sound plan. The crew took action and tried to frame Alpo for it. A lot of people want to know if he is free now, and I'm here to tell you. In November of '96, 18 members of the Preacher crew were indicted on murder and narcotics trafficking charges. The 18 members were deemed gang members accused of killing 11 plus people while running a crack distribution organization. In my opinion, John Porter fell low on the ranking in the Preacher crew, which is why he was not a main figure that was mentioned in this indictment. After all, if you are in and a part of running a crack distribution organization type of network and you smoke it, you can't be making much money. But that's not all Apple did according to the feds. In the summer of '96, before John Porter's arrest in September of '96, a former NYPD detective turned DA investigator had previous contact with the Porter family years back when he was investigating the murder of Darnell Porter. This detective went through Apple's niece to locate and convince him to have a conversation with this investigator. When the men met each other, the investigator informed him that he was an investigator for the DA's office. The DA dropped some bombs, you know what I'm saying, about Clarence being arrested and him possibly wanting to cooperate with police to try to put a little chip on his shoulder, see how he feel about it, and see what Apple's gonna do. As of August of '96, Clarence was already arrested along with a co-defendant in his case. Clarence Preacher Healy had a lot of indictments that fell down on him after his arrest in August of '96. So it's unclear what the initial charges was, because it was a lot of them. Investigator Capers told Apple that he might be indicted soon and tried persuading him to cooperate early. Choose to cooperate before being indicted. So basically to get in front of it. Apple explained his fear of the Preacher crew retaliating on his family for him choosing to flip on them. He wanted witness protection and he wanted help with an attorney, but such a deal couldn't be worked out with that DA investigator. That decision had to be taken up with the DA's office. Since it couldn't be worked out with Apple and this DA investigator, the DA investigator called a district attorney from his office that he worked at to come meet them, which he did that same night. So in that conversation that all three of these men had, Apple was spilling his guts on his role, fessing up to what he wanted to, trying to push blame here and keep the heat off of him, basically. From information that Apple told the investigator and the attorney, they concluded in their minds that he was a associate of not only Clarence Preacher Healy, but also of the Preacher crew. They explained that some sides of his story could not 100% be turned down as not true because they had never heard his side before. But some parts of his story was hard to believe. Apple stated that he knew of Clarence, but he was not a part of the Preacher crew, and he had only been a part of 2 crimes since getting out of prison previously to any arrest in '96. Okay, so within John Apple Porter Part 2, and this is after reviewing a lot of your comments, and I gained a lot of knowledge from my subscribers, my audience, about this specific scenario. And I wanted to say I deeply appreciate that. and I am inputting that into part 2, like the knowledge that I gained. So, a lot of people want to know basically how long did John Apple Porter get for his crime? A lot of people want to know if he is free now. And I'm here to tell you, the minimum that I seen as far as my research goes that he had to do was 20 years. He was charged with life with the possibility of parole, which he got. As of 2018, in the 6th month of that year, he was released on parole. So as of 2018, Apple was officially a free man, which of course, honestly, I don't like, because I feel like he got away with murder, and not just murder, deceit to his family, which if a person does that, I mean, they shouldn't deserve any type of good things to happen to them. Now, that's how I feel, you know. The way that I'm seeing it, he was not charged in any way or having any involvement in the murder of his youngest nephew. The fella that I mentioned in the first part of this clip, it's looking like he was indicted, charged, and convicted of the murder of James Taylor. He wasn't even charged in any involvement in the Preacher Crew's misdeeds. He wasn't viewed as a gang member, even though the DA's office concluded that he was an associate to them. Which, of course, confirms my theory on Apple being a low, extremely low in ranking in this crew. Meaning they would take his green light for his youngest nephew to not only be kidnapped but to be tortured and killed. They would take his green light, right? But anything else was on the Preacher's Crew, which I see it, you know, I see it like that. I understand it. I understand that being the case, right? But for him not to be charged in any way, it just sets a certain standard that the person that comes up with the overall plot gets away with what they've done like it wasn't anything, you know? That was a initiation of them torturing your youngest nephew. That was a green light to do some very foul things, and I would be disgusted to a point where I'm going to have to charge him with something. I don't feel like that's fair, you know, for him to not be charged with that. If I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, because from the conversation and the information that Apple gave the few gentlemen from the DA's office, his viewpoint of it was he's going to give what he wants to give instead of saying the whole truth. The DA's office has no right to say that he's wrong about how it went, about how certain situations went, you know. And the most prominent thing that he was talking about was maybe that he was involved with the situation with James Taylor. And from that conversation, they were able to further their investigation on that murder and indict him on it. That's how I feel like that went. And that part of him telling, you know, backfired on him. But again, he was telling them what he wanted them to know. It helped add counts to the Preacher's Crew. And the hearing that I spoke on in the first part of this video, he wanted that hearing to go in his favor, I feel like, because he didn't want to appear like a snitch. The other end of that deal that he wanted to work out was he wanted a lawyer from the DA's office. since he was warned about him possibly being indicted as well as Clarence, Preacher Heatley, and all of those individuals, he tried to work a deal, and he wanted to make it seem like the DA's office was promising to appoint him a lawyer from their office, which they were not. His snitching, of course, backfired when he was indicted and charged, but until I know for sure that it was for his youngest nephew's kidnapping and murder, which I already come to the conclusion that it's not. Come on now, because it would be kidnapping, and you know what I'm saying? It would say all that. It just says second degree murder, class A1. Okay? So I'm thinking that's Mr. James Taylor's murder. Rest in peace to him. So, you know, in the eyes of the law, viewing it like that, he has paid his debt to society, but his karma will last forever, as his family will never be the same. You know, like I said, I don't think it's fair that he didn't get charged. For that, he should be in prison forever and without any possibility of parole, but they letting a lot of folks out, you know. From the information that I got from my lovely audience, I now know that Apple was not the one who cut his youngest nephew's finger off. It was another gentleman, and it was another fella, another sick fella, you know what I'm saying? And he was not the one that killed him, but in my eyes, he is still very, very responsible. You don't have to physically harm somebody to be responsible for their demise. You even thinking about that as a route, you know, when you've seen this child as a baby. How could you do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't fathom that. I have nephews. I am an auntie. You know, my brother is an uncle to them. I could not imagine. I couldn't imagine any one of us turning against the generation that's under us. They are the future. You don't cut down the younger generation. So whoever is involved for whatever role they had should be damned for the rest of their lives, you know? You just don't do that. I also learned from my audience that Clarence Heatley's son did an interview or two on YouTube, which I will be checking out. The crew ended up killing the man responsible for cutting off young Darnell's finger and killing him. You know, even doing that, just doing that is killing him, you know, without rendering aid. You just slicing off somebody's finger and letting them bleed out is killing them. So he was killed by the crew that he worked with. How ironic is that? But they saw him as a liability. They viewed Anthony Boatwright as a liability for whatever reasons they had, but what backfired on them was not seeing John Apple Porter as a liability himself. They slept on him in that way, and it ended up backfiring on them. I will be covering the Preacher crew, its main members, and the severity of the crew's crimes, because they affected a whole lot of people and had even a dude that worked for the housing authority working with them. I think it was the housing authority or something like that I was reading, but I will be digging deep into that. And I want to reiterate that I appreciate my elders, the people that came before me dropping knowledge in the comments. It was very informative, very positive, and I appreciate the energy that I get from it. My subscribers in general, no matter your age, one thing that we can come to a common ground on is picking up different things from each other, learning from them, and taking it with us as we go. You know, this life ain't easy, but with knowing certain ways to move and being able to Teach people that, and drop knowledge here, drop knowledge there, grab knowledge from this person, grab knowledge from that person. I feel like this is an overall dope platform, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all. It's your girl B Octavia. I hope that y'all have a great weekend, and I will see y'all on Sunday. I have a vlog coming on my second channel, so make sure you go over there and check it out.